I'm Ellie, 34, and I need to write this down to make sense of it all. I just got back from running 100 miles across the Appalachian Trail. Yes, you heard that right, and I thought it would heal me. It didn't. But it did something. I'm not sure if I'm proud or just broken, so here's my story, scratched out on paper while my feet soak in a tub. Last year, my life fell apart. My husband of 8 years left me for his coworker. I lost my graphic design job in the same month, and my mom passed from cancer. I was a wreck, drinking too much, scrolling endlessly, barely leaving my apartment. I felt like I'd failed at everything. Then I found Mom's old journal where she dreamed of hiking the Appalachian Trail but never did work. Then life got in the way. She'd written Robert Frost's line, "I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep." It hit me hard. I decided to run the trail for her, or maybe for me. A literal miles to go to pull myself together. I'm not a runner. I jogged sometimes, but 100 miles? Insane. I trained for 6 months, watched every ultra-running documentary I could find, like one about Eliud Kipchoge, and bought gear I couldn't afford. My best friend, Sam, agreed to crew for me, driving to checkpoints with water and snacks, yelling at me to keep going. I picked a 100-mile stretch in Virginia, starting at Shenandoah National Park, aiming to finish in 4 days. That's 25 miles a day through mountains with bears, blisters, and no cell service. What was I thinking? Day 1 was hell. My legs burned by mile 10, I tripped on a root and ate dirt, and it started pouring. I was soaked, crying, screaming at the sky like a lunatic. Sam found me at the first checkpoint, gave me dry socks, and said, "You're not quitting. Your mom didn't raise a quitter." I kept going, mostly to spite him. That night, I camped under a tarp, listening to loons calling from a nearby pond. It was eerie but beautiful, like something out of a quiet memory. I felt Mom with me somehow. Day 2, I hit a rhythm. The trail was brutal, rocks, mud, endless climbs, but I started noticing things. The smell of pine trees, the sound of my breathing, the quiet. I saw a deer staring at me, unafraid, and it felt spiritual. I thought about Mom, how she described this in her journal. I cried again, but it was different, less angry, more raw. I made 27 miles that day, passed out in my tent, and dreamed of her laughing. Day 3, I broke. Mile 65, my knee screamed, blisters on my feet were the size of quarters, and I got lost for 2 hours after missing a trail marker. I sat on a rock, ready to quit, when this old hiker, had to be 70, walked by whistling. He saw me, smiled, and said, "Keep going, kid. The view at the end's worth it." I don't know why, but that got me up. I made it to Sam at mile 75, and he had pizza waiting. I ugly cried into a slice of pepperoni. Day 4, I finished. The last 25 miles were a blur of pain and adrenaline. I thought about my ex, my job, all the ways I'd failed, but also how I wasn't failing this. I crossed my imaginary finish line. A random oak tree I'd picked on the map and collapsed. Sam was there screaming, "You did it." I didn't feel victorious, though. I felt empty. I'd run 100 miles for Mom, for me to prove something, but I'm still me. Still jobless, still alone, still mad at the world. I'm home now, soaking my feet, staring at Mom's journal. I don't know if I'm better, but I'm different. The trail showed me I'm tougher than I thought. I ran 100 freaking miles, but it didn't fill the hole inside me. Maybe nothing will. Or maybe I've got more miles to go, like the poem says. I just know I'm not ready to stop moving yet. Has anyone else done something crazy to fix themselves? Did it work? I'd love to hear your stories if you're out there.